Hey guys, Matt from Crank Engineering. Still working on Marko's Triumph chopper. Finally got this hub apart and it's time to clean it up. Now, there's a couple of ways you could do this. Sandblasting it would be one way of doing it, which would probably do it quickly and easily if you've got a sandblaster, and I do have one. But my other favourite tool is an angle grinder with a wire wheel, which you would have seen in other videos, which I'll link below. And I'm going to do that with this one, and we're going to strip this back to bare metal in preparation for new paint. Okay, so the next step, it's late in the afternoon and I really want to get primer and a coat of paint on this tonight so I can put a second coat on tomorrow. That means first I need to get some beer, and secondly I'll need some painter's tape. And what I'm going to do is the threads for the retainers, I'm going to mask those up so I don't have to clean them again later. I mean, I can spray it full of paint, but then I'm going to have to clean the threads up, so I'm just going to save myself some cleaning up time. The rest of it can be painted. I don't really want paint in the bores where the bearings go either, so I'm going to tape those up, and I'm probably just going to stuff a little bit of paper in the bores of the hub to try and, I guess, prevent the paint making a mess in there as well. So let's get into it. Okay, so I've got the hub. I'm just hanging it from a piece of wire from a beam that runs overhead, and that allows me to get all the way around the part rather than having it on a bench where it's difficult to get to one side. So I'm going to use a primer and then my favourite Australian paint for this type of application, which is an epoxy gloss enamel. I'll do one coat here, and then I'm probably going to take this thing and hang it from one of the other spoke holes so that it flips it around, and then that will make sure I get all the coverage across all the surfaces as evenly as I possibly can. If I did both coats here, there's a chance that I might miss getting an even coat over the whole surface. So I'll just do the primer here. This thing needs an hour, I think, to it says somewhere in here, 1 hour before sanding. So I'll do a coat, wait an hour, and I'll do the first coat of this epoxy enamel. This takes 14 hours, around about 14 hours in this sort of ambient conditions to dry. So I'll do that, leave it overnight, and I'll come back tomorrow and put a second coat on. So let's get into it with the primer first. Okay, the first thing I do is just grab a piece of cardboard and just have a look at what the spray pattern's like out of the can. So I'm holding it around about that far, which is maybe 25 centimeters, 10 inches, and I think that'll be about right. And then I'm going to aim to put an even coat on the hub, and I'm not just going to hold the button down. I'm going to basically make a pass at the hub and try and get an even coat, and not too heavy in places that causes a run. So the tough places to get into are into these corners and things, so I'm going to aim to do those first, and then I'll come back and coat them for the rest that I've missed afterwards. So just watch how I do it. Okay, so we've got a nice thin even coat over the whole hub. I'm pretty happy with that. I had forgotten to mask off the face where the brake drum sits against this hub. So I need to take the paint off that before I bolt the hub back up to it, but for the purpose of the exercise I can clean that off later on. I've also haven't done the retainer and the speedo drive at this end, so I'm going to grab that, put it on the bench and just give it a quick coat of paint as well, or primer first, and then we'll paint it afterwards. But thin coat, no runs. You notice I clean the can as well by turning it upside down and pressing the button until the paint stopped coming out. So I just had to blow some propellant through the nozzle to clean it, because if you don't do that, paint dries in there and then you can't reuse the can. So happy with that. Let's come back in an hour or so and give it a coat of paint. Okay, we're back for some colour, so let's get into it. Okay, that's about as good as I can get it. The light's not great in here, so I'm not going to know until I get it out into the daylight tomorrow whether I've missed anything. But again, I'm going to flip this over and that'll help me hit any parts that I've missed. So this coat goes on pretty thick and dries really nice and a really high gloss, so this will be fine for this application. So we'll be back shortly. Okay, we're back in the morning. This has had about 14 hours to dry and it's okay now, so I've just flipped it around so I can paint from the other direction, and we'll put a second coat on. Okay, so we've got two really pretty heavy coats on it, pretty wet coat, the second one as well, and this looks great. So I'm expecting once it's dry that it'll be fantastic. So we'll get a shot of it out in the sun and we'll show you how it come up.